evolvement, let's just say that. They're inviting them because they're about to blow them up. They're about to be destroyed. They're about to destroy. Russia and their cronies are about to decimate and destroy all of those NATO countries. So they're giving people the opportunity, and they are exonerating themselves from karma to allow people who are morally just, who don't agree with what their governments are doing to other nations, to have the opportunity to leave now or forever hold their peace. That's my take. Because if you look at the countries like France, because I still have family there, Ireland, is Ireland on there? I don't think Ireland. Yeah, Ireland was on there. All the US. Look at where all of the people that are being incepted with all these immigrants. Why would a country invite immigrants from hostile nations into their country? What reason would you have to do that? Why in all of the European countries that are NATO affiliates, why are they inviting hostile immigrants in their countries and letting these immigrants come in with hostility towards their citizens? Why would a country do that? For destruction. Okay, so Russia knows this, so they're giving solace. At first I thought it was for Ukraine, because you got a whole group of Daros going over to Ukraine right now setting up shop. So I thought, initially I thought Russia was doing this so that they know that the Ukrainian Daros are going to need a food source, so they were going to invite other people over there so that they could feed them to the wolves, okay, so to speak. But I don't think that anymore. After I saw the list and I found out that the list was all the hostiles to Russia, and Russia is giving an opportunity, it's almost like saying, put up your white flag. Remember back in war, put up your white flag. Come over. If you're healthy and you're coming from values like our country, you are welcome to come here before we blow you out of the stratosphere. Okay? So I would suggest, please do not go to Russia thinking that you're going to smoke weed, because they remember that chick, that man chick who went over there and she got arrested for bringing weed over there. You got to be drug free. You can't be if you'd like to drink vodka, I think they'll let you come in. Vodka. They like to drink vodka. But if you are a drug pusher, you got to take Adderall every day. You on drugs, you can't kick the can. They're not going to let you go there. Okay? You got to be drug free, uphold certain moral values. You can't go over there putting butt plugs in your butt or trying to put in your neighbor's butt. Anal sex is probably outlawed. I'm just saying. So I'm just saying, if you're trying to do, they have a 3-year accelerated program to fast track people into Russian citizenship. Okay. And they are also doing screenings for everybody going on there. And I'm going to tell you, I already know some people who are in the process. And all I will say to you is that be careful, because if you have any addictions, you just going to have a short term there. Okay. You got to go there with upholding yourself to a certain moral standard. And also, please check your Chinese astrology animal, because Russia is the goat. So if you are an enemy to the goat, I don't know if some of you uphold yourself to feng shui, Asian astrology, but if you are an enemy to the goat, you should not go there. Okay. So what are the enemies to, who's the enemy to the goat in Chinese astrology? I forgot who it was. If you're the enemy of the goat, this is not a country for you. If you do your astrocartography and you had reversed Chiron lines in there, you shouldn't go there. Check your astrocartography before you go, and check your your Chinese astrology animal to make sure it's not an enemy country. Okay. So, so just, that's the FYI. I'm not encouraging anyone to go, but I'm letting you know Russia's about to do something. They're getting buck wild, and they're giving people the opportunity to leave. Now, you already know I'll be in South America, chilling with maracuja juice, watching from a distance. So, so I just want to put that out there, the list. Russia's doing this. I would pay attention. And if you don't want to stay here right now, they're giving a lot of encouragement. And that, I think if you uphold a certain moral value that is likened to Russia, you know, Russians are a little colder. So if you're like a happy-go-lucky person, but they're very fair and balanced. As far as I know, Russians, very fair and balanced people. If you can live in the cold, if you don't mind putting on the big fuzzy hats, I like the big fuzzy hat. The big fuzzy hats, if you're okay going there, I suggest, because I'm telling you, United Fakes, I told you a long time ago, you need to leave. United Fakes is done, y'all. It's been sold, it's been bartered, and it's been split into different pieces. The Chinois owned a part of it. I think the Chinois own most of the United Fakes. The previous United Fakes, can someone tell me the real name? I think it's called Nihai Kalan. I don't know what it's called. And the India owns another portion of it. And how do you know this? And you know that I'm not crazy, is that I want you to look at how many Indian ethnicities have shown up in the election, though that's supposedly the smallest population here. How do you have so many Indians that are in arena in politics when it's supposed to be a small number of people? It's because it's been purchased, bought, and sold by the Indians. This is their country. So they're putting people in political power that uphold their values and their ethnicity. Okay? And why you don't hear that from other channels? Because most likely they're NPCs. Okay, so let's go into the predators of the communities personally, I think a lot of the predators that are online pushed on social media are being protected and progenerated as a distraction and also as a trick or a trap. Trick or treat, a trick or trap. It's like a trick or treat. Okay? So the fact of the matter is that if one is not self-aware, they aren't doing the work themselves. They want a cheat sheet. They want to go through other people to do the work that they themselves are very qualified to do. If they take the time, start to be more patient, start to work on those aspects of self that needs to be refined and to clear past trauma, whatever it is, you could do that yourself. Okay? But a lot of the predators online are placed there and supported and progenerate. And how you know is that they never get anything taken offline. They're never attacked. And, you know, over the years on YouTube, many of you know me for many years. I've been on YouTube since 2011. And my channel has been perpetually, it has a bullseye on it. And I'm just a mom from Mount Vernon. I can't imagine what I say that could possibly be worthy of being targeted. But what I did know is that all of my amazing YouTubes that were deleted, demonetized, vilified, or just basically blocked, a lot of these people were telling truths that weren't being perpetuated through the other parts of the community. So when you hear about things like the pole shift, how come no one's talking about that? How come I'm one of very few who acknowledge that during and before reset or right after it, we have a huge pole shift that clears up the entire planet? Now, many of you heard about the mud floods, right? Titarian societies, we talk about the Titarian buildings. And when you see these huge buildings and some of the floors are missing because they're all under mud, layers of mud that would have taken a long time to happen over a period of time. How come no one's speaking about that? When did those mud floods happen? No one talks about the fact that you'll look on maps, really old maps, and you'll see land masses that used to exist that don't exist anymore. Or there's holes and canals where used to be full land masses. Why do you see changing of names? Why back in, what was it, the Moors? Any Moors in here? What about the Moors? What about the fact that the United States capital used to be Morocco? That doesn't concern you? Like, how come when we were in high school, they didn't tell us that Morocco was the capital of the United States at one point? Why would a foreign country be a capital in another part of the world unless Morocco was in the United States when it used to be called something else? You got to ask yourself those questions. Okay? So when we talk about terms of the pole shift, at the end of the simulated game, you will always have three main factors. It's probably four, but I'll name three. The first thing that you'll notice, they'll always have a pandemic. Now, the pandemic usually is accompanied with a world war. So if you go back to World War I, II, Korean War, other wars, you're going to notice that there's two factors that are always working in sync with one another. a pandemic, and also, what does she say? Frosty, Frost. Come here, Frosty. Leave my fire alone. No, you're not to come up here, Fuzzface. Okay? Look at that. That's mother and daughter. That's Lola, and this is Frost. You see Frost? That's her daughter. Her daughter's wild. Yeah, you see her? She's wild. Okay? Always during the time of World War, you have two accompanying factors. So what usually happens before a pole shift is you have a pandemic, you have a world war that accompanies, that hides and cloaks the amount of deaths, because you always associate it with the war. But really, it's the pole shift that clears off the entire planet for most breathing human beings. The pole shift, you're not supposed to really be here. There's only going to be a handful of soul beings that may be here, and then they'll geoengineer babies, the mud flood children, the Cabbage Patch children, that they grow in incubators that they have underneath the grounds right now in little petri dishes. Waited. Remember when what's his name said test tube babies? He was like, "You a test tube baby." Who was that again? What's his name? Remember, you'd be like, "You test tube baby." He wasn't lying. Because there are people here that are generations of mud flood people, of incubating children. Did you ever see the orphan trains, y'all? When they talk about the old societies, all these children on trains going into these cities. Robert Harris, he was so funny. Test tube baby. You a test tube baby. Remember, they had all these children shown on trains going into these different cities. What they do after the pole shift, when reset is done and the continent, underneath the firmament is cleared, and there's like this weird dome that happens with all this moisture and everything grows really big and it starts to recultivate itself. After a while, they come from underneath the underground cities and they start to seed these incubating children to restart societies again. Okay, so the fact of the matter is, you have a pandemic, you have now it's usually synonymous, and then you have a witch hunt. And remember when I went to Argentina and I told you that the little elf beings, which I never even heard of, told me the story of Snow White was actually a story of the assassination and the assassination of all women that happens around this time. The fact of the matter is, the witch hunt always accompanies this right before the reset. So there is a killing off, and I actually think it's not a killing off. I think what they do is they generally get rid of certain bloodlines that they don't want to be here after the pole shift, and they also kidnap women and children that hold a certain bloodline that they want to clone. They want to geoengineer. So they take the other women underneath the ground and children with specific bloodlines, specific characteristics that they want to harness so that they can create a new batch of mud flood incubator children to insert inside the program after we go through pole shift and reset. Okay? So for that reason, you're seeing a lot of people here. That's why I'm saying mud flood people are here. They're biological organisms, but they don't carry souls from outside the firmament. They are creations within the simulation, biological organisms, almost like grays. You know how grays are created, and some grays are actual bioorganisms that are created to serve a certain agenda for other ET groups, kind of like that. But they're more humanoid. Their genetics are selected and tailored to create certain kind of children at certain times and put them in certain cities. Like all the emptied out Mayan temples, the Egyptian temples, all those places, different people are placed in those areas, and they're always the ones who claim to build the Mayan temples. They're the ones who claim to build the Egyptian pyramids, but they're really not. Those are just inserts of biological hybrids that are brought back up to the surface after the pole shift is done. Okay? So I just want to talk about the fact that you are not getting any sort of information, at least not publicly, that's allowed to come out, y'all. Even the people I know that are very well vetted in pole shift information, their channels are being suppressed. The information, they're being shadow banned. You don't hear about it, and as soon as they say something too strong, too relevant, their channel is attacked, or their information, their video is deleted. Okay, the pole shift is real. It happens every time after reset, and because of this, they're not going to talk about it. Even though you're seeing storms and cracks and snow in opposite places. Remember, the pole shift swaps the poles. Okay? It swaps the poles. And also that comes with the magnetosphere being very destabilized. That's why people are going mad. They have, like, their brain doesn't have the capacity to be able to deal with the changes stratospherically, because like people, animalistic people are much more sensitive to changes in the stratosphere. So then they start acting like maniacs. You're seeing a lot of fathers killing their entire families. You see mothers that are killing. You saw the mother who just shot her 13-year-old in the back of her head just from having an argument. A lot of people are affected because they're more animalistic. That's why I told you, do not breed with savages. When you breed with people that have more animalistic characteristics than humanoid characteristics, they act more, they're more affected by geo-engineered weather. They're more affected by stratospheric changes. They're more affected by frequencies that are being pulse waves that are being pushed out here with all these fake 5G towers, which are literally bio-frequency weapons that are used against the populace right now to control those who took the brrrah and to control the chips in them and to activate them. Okay, so you got to be careful by having children with people that are subhuman. Okay, you could do it. Maybe you like, being a little wild. I don't know, but you're going to create things that have very limited ability to use discernment. They're going to be very impulsive. People who are highly impulsive, who can't control themselves, they always yell and scream. They don't have self-control and self-mastery. They have sex all the time. They can't control who they have sex with. Those are like savage type of beings. Those are beings that are literally, you're mixing with animals. And this, most likely, you may be sleeping and recreating children from mud flood, genealogy. There's a lot of different other sub creatures in there that are hybrids, that are progenitors of the DNA inside of the firmament itself. But soul beings don't have as much animalistic qualities. Okay? Beings, when I say soul, I'm talking about the beings that are progenerating themselves inside of the game. So like gamers are not the same as NPCs in the game. Gamers will come in with an acknowledgement that they're coming in the game, acknowledgement that it is a game, and an acknowledgement that everyone outside of them is most likely a character within the game. So it's important for you to understand, if you play too much with savages, or you you have too much recreational participation with them, it's going to bleed over into even your consciousness. And also, if you decide to breed with them, then you breed a hybrid, and then you have children that have that limited ability to control themselves. You know what I mean? They're always cursing all the time. They can't control themselves. They can't control their sexual behavior. They can't control like how angry they get. They have just, they have the inability to have that cap because they're breeding with non-cap beings that are only capped within the construct of spirituality and anything that's outside of the agenda. Okay? So I'm just saying, be careful with participating with NPCs and with mud flood people. Okay, if they like to do real animalistic things, if they don't even have a concept of, if you tell them what's happening, they just laugh at you and think it's crazy, most likely either they're NPC or they're a progenitor, byproduct of a cabbage patch. Okay, cabbage patches don't leave the firmament. They're BioWare. They're bioengineered inside of here. They actually are tagged. They have tags on them. Okay, they aren't leaving here. They don't ever leave. They're not from outside of here. They're created inside of the simulation. They are a byproduct of the actual game. Okay, they're here for the good, for forever. Okay, and they stay inside of here. The NPCs aren't even real, so they're not going to be held. And I kind of talked about this before. When you're following the agendas, when you're following all these weird kind of these weird kind of trends, oh, this is a trend. Like I don't know if you guys remember when we used to watch TikTok. You remember a couple of years ago, TikTok? And all you saw on TikTok was little kids, children, right? I'm looking at the time. You were watching children doing the same dance over and over again. Do you remember? TikTok was more like a dance. People were just dancing, doing the same dance over and over again. They were grooming you to get used to people who are clones, have clone behavior. Okay? as a dancer, a trained dancer and an innate dancer, meaning that I have soul inside of me. So before I was trained to dance, I could feel the beat, dance with it independently. I didn't need to move. I didn't have to learn it. It was just, I'm a Caribbean girl. I'm a jungle chick. I told you, I'm waiting for my 8-man. I have the beat in me. Remember when Michael Jackson said he danced within the beat? There was a beat inside of a beat, kind of like that. But when I was trained to dance. And when I was trained to dance, I could do the choreography. And as soon as I mastered the choreography, I would throw my own on it. So I would throw that extra hip in. I would put my head back, throw my head to the side. I would throw my own thing on the choreography to add it, to make it was mine, to make it mine. But with TikTok, what it was doing was making people, programming people to be okay with cloned behavior. No one would make the dance different. They all did the dance the same way. They did, even down to the last step. They always cloned what was taught to them, and they were getting you used to seeing that kind of cylindrical behavior, so that you wouldn't notice it as odd in your regular world. That is a byproduct of clone beings, NPCs. Not so much the because usually the mud flood people can't dance. What you'll notice is that the mud flood people, they can be trained to dance, but they're not innate dancers. There isn't any mud flood person or Cabbage Patch or incubator child that has rhythm, because they're not connected to the actual rhythmic cosmic connection. They haven't a rhythmic behavior comes from the cosmos. It's like being connected to the heartbeat of where you are. That's why the frogs are always in sync. The crickets are always in sync. They're always on rhythm. Things that have no rhythm, they're most likely mud flood people. Okay. Now they can be taught rhythm. They can take classes. That's why some people without rhythm can take classes and they can pretend like they are non-mud flood. But if you lack rhythm, most likely you are a progenitor in here, or NPCs can kind of cloak rhythm, just like you could see it on. So it's actually taught. So that's how I can tell if someone's a mud flood person, or they come from those that blood, that I wouldn't say it's a bloodline. They come from that geo-engineered hybrid, is because they have no rhythm, because they're not natural. Okay, they're geo-engineered. They're created in a laboratory. Even the heartbeat, they don't even grow up in a womb with a heartbeat. The heartbeat would have given them rhythm. Okay, so even in a body, they're not getting the rhythm from the heartbeat because they're not natural. Okay, that's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I've noticed that people that I know personally that are mud flood people that come from that hybrid of Cabbage Patch people, none of them have rhythm. None of them. And if they dance, they're taught, and that's how they get it. Or they do 20,000 months of yoga to kind of get balance within it. And there's nothing wrong with it, because they're part of the structure. It's just like you're tethered to this realm. So they have to, I mean, what are they going to do? They're doing the best they can. And I don't say that I feel bad or good for them, but they're progenitors. They're tethered to this realm. Okay. So yeah, that's just my opinion. And again, that could be changed. You know, my opinions can be changed with time, but as far as I know, they're rhythmless, the rhythmless nation. So also with some of the things you have to notice online, so that you don't become victims of predators, online predators, spiritual predators, people that are, you know, because I don't think many of you realize a lot of the people online now are being planted by your Willy Wonka system. You got to look at their background. Are they coming from the entertainment field? I mean, you got, what's his name? The guy with the light eyes coming on talking about he knows quantum physics and so on. Where is he coming from? The entertainment field. What he's talking about quantum physics. I'm not saying that he's not qualified to do so, but why is he allowed, Terrence Howard, right? Terrence Howard. Why is he allowed to talk online about things like that just out of the blue? And it's not really being taken off. And it's qualified information. I'm not saying he isn't. It's information that's legitimate. Because someone's information is legitimate doesn't make them legitimate. I got to say that again. Because someone shares legitimate information with you does not make them legitimate. A lot of people online are predators because they're planted. And some of them may not even know they're planted, but they're planted because they're allowed to speak without any sort of rejection from the internet, any sort of pushback. There isn't any sort of, as we know, YouTube, IG will literally snafu you off, or they'll give you pushback if you are doing or saying anything against what they want as their main agenda. So if you're seeing a so-called spiritualist who has these huge platforms speaking on spiritual things, and then it's all to basically lead you to a private website to sell you drugs, all kinds of drugs, and or to give you spiritual remedies that are charging astrological money, you gotta have some discernment to say, well, this is really what the agenda is. If someone's a real spiritualist, they will have things to teach you things. It will be more based in giving you tools if they care. Now, if they don't care and they tell you they don't care, then it is what it is. You should know that if you go to a spiritual predator and they say they're doing it for the money, then I think to me, that's more honest. And I think that they're telling you the truth. But when someone is pretending that they care about you and then they go and take all your money and they think it's okay to take $1,500 or $2,000 from an average person, a mom who has 3 children, and they think that that's okay to charge that kind of money, or they think, well, because they feel like if you're willing to pay for it, then you just deserve to get what I give you. You got to utilize your this and say to yourself, would any truly good-hearted person prey upon a mother or people that have the most limited resources? Umar Johnson has been taking money for years for a school that has never been erected. Where is the school that Umar Johnson? I mean, many of you realize that, the original Sugar Bear. I got a new Sugar Bear, y'all. I got a new Sugar Bear. I think he's a little better. But, I call him Sugar Bear. Umar Johnson, for some of you, we were really excited many years ago when he came out talking about creating a school for melanated children that really made a big emphasis on self-esteem, growing their consciousness without, colonized mindset. I mean, I thought it was wonderful. I think I was one of the first people that was on board. And then over the years, you see that when he got with the conscious stripper, after he vilified women, saying that he would never let children in his school that didn't have natural hair, he made sure to designate and vilify the women of color, of course, saying that he wouldn't allow girls to come in his school that had braids or didn't have their natural hair. They would have to come with an afro. But the woman that he was found in bed with was a conscious stripper with blonde weave and everything artificial. I'm just saying, y'all. I'm bringing the smoke because I'm tired of young sea stars coming to me saying they got by these spiritual predators online. And I think some of the other gentlemen and women online have talked about them. And I don't have to say name because it's a characteristic that they all uphold. It doesn't matter if I say one or two. It's generally a character. It's a characteristic of all of them. So I don't ever have to say a name. Okay, I don't have to say a name because you know a characteristic of someone who isn't trying to help their community. And I don't particularly go in that whole base of communities because I don't lump myself because someone's my complexion that they're me. Because listen, you're gonna have enemies in every color and every complexion. You're gonna have friends in every color and complexion. Other galactic beings, other kind of dimensional beings. I don't really put complexion as a determinant on if I should trust someone or not. The Negrotarians do that. The Negrotarians who are caping for Mr. Kamala, acting like Mr. Kamala, who's cosplaying a brown woman from the South, when the woman is from no cultural base of any Afro-American, any indigenous American connection. But the Negrotarians, because they believe in the cosplay, and she speaks a certain Southern, connection. She's part of the AKA, which is another psyop because she wasn't part of the AKA. She was chosen after the fact. Okay, so you have these people caping for a person because they think that she's brown, and you see what happened when you cape for a person like Obama. And how many people of color were killed under his administration, and how many mass assassinations were done in the Middle East under his name, that what people had the audacity to talk about Obama, that he was a Middle Easterner, but all these Middle Eastern leaders that were trying to do things and other Africans were murdered under his regime. Okay? The fact of the matter is there's a lot of Negrotarians out here who cape for anything brown. It doesn't matter if it's a brown devil or not, they'll just cape for it. Okay? I am a non-participant in that and that level of mental illness or Stockholm syndrome. Okay? Your actions, your deeds speak to who you are. So if you're a brown person and I see you as someone progenerating themselves as a spiritual healer and trying to help the community, and you're sitting there taking advantage of women of color and especially women that look like you and not caring that you're taking their check that they save their hard money on, and they'll sacrifice their children's food in order to save their soul because you said you can help them, I think you're a loser. I think you're going to pay for the crimes and you are going to have to uphold, you are going to be held accountable for that type of diabolical usury. It isn't righteous to do that. You have a lot of these mambos and everybody doing spiritual work for people at charging $3,000 to $5,000 to do work for someone. And meanwhile, this person is robbing Timmy to pay John to pay you. And that isn't righteous. There is a consequence for overcharging people for things that you know very well you cannot prove and you cannot quantify. Okay? And you know, I tell the C-stars who come to me, I was like, you have to take responsibility yourself, because if you didn't see the red flags before you paid that amount of money, then there's something going on with you that allows people to take advantage of you. And where in your life, maybe it was something in your youth, you used to, like maybe your dad took advantage of you, maybe your brothers, maybe a man did, but there's something in you that allows for that to happen, because you would have seen that red flag and you would have said, not today, not on my bill. And I'm not saying that you cannot go and get help and assistance from people who have the ability to show you the tools and to give you help with maybe seeing certain things from spiritual angles that they've evolved and they've had wisdom and they're trained in. I'm not saying that, but you have this entire internet that is riddled with people that are set up here and that aren't messed with, because YouTube loves a good predator. Okay, they'll let people prey on people all day, and as someone who's telling you the truth for darn near free, they don't want you getting that. They want you to pay the $2,000-$3,000 to have someone tell you that they can clear your whole Akashic record, that they can sweep your bloodline, that they can do. How do you quantify that? Tell me how you prove this true, because sometimes there's things like there's a placebo effect. Someone tells you something and you automatically think it, you automatically put it in your mind, so you make it true. How do you quantify that kind of healing? How do you verify that? Where is the